good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Youth Next Level, Strengthening Youth-Led Responses workshop. And it's truly exciting to see young people and youth leaders from different corners of the world come together for this significant event. So your presence here today reflects the passion, resilient commitments of youth driving change in their communities. My name is Legi, and I have the privilege of being one of the moderators of today's workshop, and pretty much excited to guide you through the day of learning and sharing. So this workshop is a collaborative effort between Y Plus Global and UNAIDS, both of which are strongly committed to empowering youth voices and actions. And as we begin this journey together, it's very important to remember the UNAIDS Code of Conduct for meeting and gatherings. So I'd like to highlight the key points from the Code of Conduct. First of all, we have a zero tolerance for misconduct, including discrimination, harassment, abuse of authority, or any form of sexual misconduct, and such behaviors are strictly prohibited. And examples of prohibited conduct include unwelcome advances, inappropriate or offensive comments, sharing explicit or offensive materials, and any behavior that causes a harm, discomfort, or humiliation to others. And the code applies to everyone, including participants, organizers, speakers, and anyone involved, with the shared duty to uphold these values and ensure a positive professional environment. And if any abusive or inappropriate behavior is experienced or witnessed, action can be taken by reporting to organizers or through official channels. Adhering to these principles ensures a respectful and collaborative environment for a meaningful discussion and contribution. Thank you for your attention, and let's have, so there's a QR code displayed on the slide for the direct access to the full code of conduct, and scanning it, it provides more details about rights, responsibilities, and reporting mechanisms. And let's have a very productive and impactful workshop. With that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Priscilla. Priscilla, are you there? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Legi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Priscilla Ama Ado from Y Plus Global, and I am one of the co-moderators for this session. Before I continue, I would like to remind everyone here that there is interpretation available. So if you are in here and you speak another language, we have Spanish and French interpretations available. Please locate the interpretation button and select your right language. Thank you so much. So I would like to begin by introducing the objectives of this workshop. This workshop would be split into three main parts. The first being understanding what the Youth Next Level resource is and how we can get country networks acquainted with the resource, including informing them on how to use it and how to include it at country level implementation, as well as a step-by-step guide. We will also understand how sustainable youth-led responses are crucial from community partners. Also, we would at the end of this session, we would understand action planning, or we would be able to come up with an action plan in our various breakout rooms. We would be able to plan how we as young people can promote the Youth Next Level resource with other stakeholders in country, and what advocacy events we can leverage the resource on. So before we jump right into the session, there are a few housekeeping rules. Please introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us your name, the country you come from, and if you are comfortable with letting us know the organization you work with, we would love to know you as well. This is a form of networking. Please make sure your microphone is muted when you are not speaking. If you have any concerns, please raise your hand if you want to take the floor. Participants are invited to switch on the camera when they are taking the floor. We want to see who is speaking. That is very, very important. In case of technical issues, example connection problems, please use the chat function for technical support. We want to hear from all of you, and we have a session with breakout rooms, and we would like to hear your thoughts. So please stay with us throughout. Please activate the language you feel comfortable using. We have English as the main language and French and Spanish interpretations. The session will be recorded and you will receive access to the recording and follow-up materials. Okay, so this is a brief introduction of the speakers. There's myself, and there's Eddie Rudram from Y Plus Global. Um, Before we introduce all the speakers, we would like to go briefly to the next slide to know who Eddie Rudram is. So, a brief introduction of Eddie. Eddie is a passionate advocate of HIV and LGBTQI plus rights, and has many years' experience in the development field, both with civil society and the United Nations. He currently works for Y Plus Global and is based in Bangkok, Thailand. Throughout the years, Eddie has provided communications and technical support to improve programs for young people at risk of HIV, and has co-authored multiple publications with the UN, developed leadership training manuals for young people, and documented countless stories of youth activism and leadership across Asia and the Pacific. That is Eddie Rudram. Yeah. So, guys, please, as the session is ongoing, please do not forget to use your reactions as well. I would like to see some clapping. He has an extensive profile. We will be having Eddie Rudram and Gabriela Romero taking us through the Youth Next Level resource. What is it all about? But before we jump into that, I would like to also introduce who Gabriela Romero is. Gabriela is the Senior Programs Officer at Y Plus Global, bringing years of international project experience in human rights and gender inequality. Recently, she has worked with human rights funds, NGOs, grassroots initiatives, and public private partnerships, focusing on community organizations in institutional strengthening, strategic planning, monitoring, evaluation, and program management. Gabriela is based in Colombia. Gabriela, I hope we can see you. So we are going to hand over to Gabriela and Eddie to take us through what the Youth Next Level resource is. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Priscilla, for your enthusiasm and for reading out the bios that we wrote about ourselves. I always find it very interesting. Thank you to everybody who was able to join us at the workshop. If you didn't join us at the AIDS 2024 conference for the in-person launch, we are very excited to have you join us, at least virtually, so you get to learn a little bit more about Youth Next Level, which is a resource that has been in the making for many, many years. And we are excited to share that now with you. So Youth Next Level is a resource that covers many important and critical issues that are related to youth-led responses. We talk about the definitions of youth-led responses and also the definitions of youth-led organizations. We also unpack the components of youth-led responses and what meaningful youth engagement looks like, but also build on what the principles and the barriers of meaningful youth engagement is. But more importantly, we provide a checklist and recommendations on how organizations can strengthen youth-led responses at local and national levels. And we also provide country examples. Now, I know a lot of you who are sitting in this workshop have done incredible work. I see some very familiar names and some faces, and I do hope that in the breakout sessions, you're able to share with us a little bit more about some of the work that you're involved in, because we all are contributing to youth-led responses. So just a little bit of an introduction to the guidance itself. This was developed by UNAIDS and Y Plus Global. Like I said earlier, it had taken a few years in the making. We wanted to create this guidance to help not only to strengthen, but to also sustain the roles of young people in national and local HIV responses. But more importantly, we wanted to create a guidance that wasn't just for young people to use, but for government, civil society, stakeholders, donors, and more importantly, UN country teams. Because what we have understood is that as young people, we can create these resources, but they might not be taken up by these stakeholders, but at least these stakeholders now can use this guidance within their own work. And it also encourages the meaningful engagement of young people, not as beneficiaries, but as also partners and leaders within the HIV world. Next slide, please. So the youth-led responses, why does it matter? I think we all know the facts and the figures, and I won't go through them. And I know that at least in Asia and the Pacific, the HIV incidences and the infections are amongst the highest, especially in the Philippines. So I can only imagine in which countries that you are, you must also understand the HIV response more accurately within your own countries. But we know that young people are not only disproportionately affected, but young people continue to play leadership roles in HIV responses. And now sometimes those leadership roles are never always understood. So youth-led responses, and especially within this resource, we want to help ensure that programs remain not only relevant to young people, but we want to leverage their experiences and consider their needs and their aspirations. So it's about making sure that your voices count and that your voices matter. And as we said, young people should not only be seen as beneficiaries of services, but they should be meaningfully engaged as partners and as leaders from the get-go all the way to the very end. Now, I know that Yuba is also in this workshop, and there was a quote taken from the resource that no one can reach a young person better than another young person. And I know that we all know that's true. So we'll be able to speak to Yuba later as well. Next slide, please. I won't speak too much on how the guidance was developed because it involved not only a lot of time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears, but we did try to include as many voices as possible within its development. So I think a lot of you are also in this workshop might have had a role or might have been involved in either some of those interviews or maybe even been involved in the consultation. But we really did try over the past 3 years to make sure that this guidance was built from the voices of young people so that key stakeholders can use it within their own programs and to help shape programs that actually mean something for young people. Next slide, please. So these are the most important parts. We spent a lot of time trying to define what youth-led responses is and what youth-led organizations are. These are the two critical definitions that we highlight in the resource. So as you can see on the screen, youth-led HIV responses is defined as interventions, actions, and strategies that seek to help improve the health and well-being of young people living with and affected by HIV. And what youth-led responses can do is that it could be a youth-led chapter, it could be a branch, it could be a network within organizations. So it doesn't necessarily mean that organizations have to be youth-led, but as long as they are youth-serving or have a youth-led chapter or a branch, and that young people have decision-making power, and if it exists, then we can call that youth-led responses to HIV. And at the bottom, we say that, the definitions of young people is between 10 to 29, but it can vary between different organizations. And now for youth-led organizations, we are talking about groups and networks within the HIV response, whether these organizations are formal or informal, because as we know, we work with a lot of organizations that sometimes are not registered or they use a fiscal host when it comes to funding. But what we want to try to make sure is that 80% of the governance of youth-led organizations are made up of young people, so that the leadership, the staff, the spokespeople, the memberships, the volunteers, 80% of the framework of that informal or formal organization needs to be made up of young people. So that also categorizes how decisions are made, making sure that young people are involved in every decision-making process when it comes to within that organization. In the resource itself, we actually laid out some checklists so that organizations, people, they can go through it and see, okay, does this question answer what it means for me to be youth-led responses or am I a youth-led organization? So if you opened up the resource, you'll be able to see this checklist and you'll be able to ask those questions yourself. And then if you tick those boxes, then at least you have a greater understanding of what youth-led responses are and if you identify as a youth-led organization.
Okay, I'm making sure I'm not speaking on mute again. So thank you, Eddie. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna move on with a little bit more detailed description on how we can recognize how if we're talking about youth-led responses. So therefore, there are five key components that we need to have into account. And I'm very sure that most of you are already familiar with it, but sometimes it helps to have a graphic like this one to remember it or explain it better out there. So the first one will be to identify and know that young people are being involved into decision making and setting the priorities of the work. The second one will be that youth were engaged into gather analyzing data. So, for example, and like as Eddie already mentioned, for the development of this guidance, um, many of you were involved, and without you, we wouldn't be having this guidance. So that's the key and what makes the document different, I will say, and also uh, a youth-led response. The third one will be empowering youth to lead legal and policy changes. So, of course, we know that measuring the impact sometimes into legal and policy changes is also a good way of knowing that we're talking about youth-led responses. Young people directly provide health services to their peers, and we might hear some good examples today during the session, and also ensuring that sustainable funding for youth led organizations, because we all need in this world funds to create things. Next slide, thank you. So, what is the global framework to know or to understand that we're talking about meaningful youth engagement? So we have the global consensus statement on meaningful adolescent youth engagement. You're gonna find these references on the guidance, the practical guidance resource to operational on the global consensus statement on meaningful adolescent and youth engagement. You have all of them on the slide, so I'm just gonna and also on the guidance, we will be sharing the link. And here you will find really good references that we also use for the guidance. But I'm gonna move to the next slide. So when we're talking about principles, right? And I think what is important for you is to know that this guidance is going to help you sometimes to put the words or the ideas that we have already into the graphics, into the explanations. That was kind of the word that we did, so that you have a tool to approach the stakeholders, people that you work with, to explain better what it is when or what we mean when we're talking about youth-led responses. What are the core principles of meaningful youth engagement? So I'm just gonna go very fast through all of them. So first of all, that is rights-based and safe. That is institutional mandated and designated. That is resourced to ensure that investments in young people are happening, and that there is a sustainability of the youth-led operations, to ensure that there is also capacity building and mentoring opportunities. Sometimes we provide young people with the spaces um, or yeah, with the opportunities, but we need to push those efforts also with capacity building and mentoring opportunities. And I'm sure all of you have great things to contribute in this aspect. We need to be transparent and ensure that the contributions of young people are valued. It needs to be voluntary, reciprocal accountability. Ensure also that there is a diverse representation of young people. I know that this is sometimes easier in some countries than in others. Um, but let's try to make the effort and amplify and also mix with other diverse young group of peoples to have a greater impact. And it needs to be equal partners to build positive partnerships. This is at the end also a product or a result of a great partnership that we have done over the last years. Um, Now let's talk about the barriers. And I know that you're probably all experts in understanding and naming the barriers that young people face when it comes to meaningful youth engagement. So you see this beautiful graphic, another one great graphic that you can use to explain your ideas better. So the first one will be, of course, the lack of recognition of young people as experts of their own realities. I'm saying we, but I consider myself a little bit a young person. um, so sometimes we get invited to contribute, to share our experiences, but a really recognition of us knowing what is best for us is lacking. There is a lack of clear protection and safeguarding measures, safe spaces, um, the self stigma and lack of confidence among young people. That's where capacity building again and mentoring is essential. The age based discrimination towards young people. Sometimes the idea of thinking that because we're too young, we don't know enough. The lack of youth friendly languages and methodologies in decision making spaces. Very important. And I think that this one particularly, it's kind of a little bit of responsibility to see how we can include these languages into these decision making spaces. Um, Inadequate compensation, um, insufficient capacities among adults to meaningfully engage young people. And I think throughout my experience, I think that that's something that everyone needs to learn. I'm a little bit more positive into this aspect because I think that is also part of our work to guide um, adults or other stakeholders for them to understand better who we are, the work that we do. So in spaces like this one or with the guidance that we are presenting today, of course, different forms of stigma and discriminations and violence that our communities and ourselves are facing, limited seats designated for young people, and also capacity building opportunities. So not only the mentoring, but also the capacity building opportunities. So we often talk about the barriers, and I think we have them very present when we're doing advocacy work, when we're going to some spaces. But here we have also collected some great ideas that you can bring to these spaces to explain how to overcome these barriers. Yeah, and please know that this information is based into the experiences of all the incredible young people that help us to develop this guidance. So the first one will be it's important always to have financial compensation. We need to ensure that young people, and this is sometimes we are, or sometimes you as advocates know about it, but I think we need to bring the message and make sure that we're also asking for it. Ensure that young people are being paid for their contributions, not only for the traveling and the event participation, but core funding is also essential, right? We've been asked to implement many activities, but there is always a need for the core function funding for our team, for the people who are dedicating their times. So this is essential. The second one will be the capacity strengthening and mentorship. We talked about it before. So we can develop skills in leadership, advocacy, and navigating sometimes complex situations, spaces. Sometimes we're invited to spaces where we feel we don't belong. So capacity building and mentorship is essential. Then also the diversity in decision making. Let's ensure that the representation of young people is also diverse. Sometimes we get used to work with the same people that we always have, and it's easy, it's accessible, it's practical, but we need to make more efforts to have a diverse representation, provide also alternative means of engagement. Nowadays, we have so many different ways, and I think as young people, we are um, a little bit in an advantage because we know different ways that we can bring and suggest and make it also a little bit more dynamic. And also the leadership transition. So ensure or develop successions plans to train the new leaders early. I know sometimes this is difficult to leave the work that we do, but we need to know that we are representing young people and that sometimes transition plan ways on transitioning and let also the spaces for other young people is essential. So how do we strengthen the youth-led responses? Here are some ideas that are inspired into real cases. So the first one will be to map legal and policy landscapes, understand also what are the current responses that are happening in your country. Is there anything already happening? Am I working with other people already into something? Then assess the capacities and needs of youth-led organizations. This is of course based on the mapping of the legal and policy landscapes as well. Identify what are all those gaps and opportunities for the youth leadership. And I think um, if most of the people here advocates, this is probably your area of expertise, but the other ones will be contributing also to your work, supporting the scale up of youth-led responses, the monitoring process, and also leveraging the support for sustainability. So we have been talking about a lot about how the work should be, and that might sound a little bit idealistic, but we want to bring also some good examples that we have found throughout the development of the guidance. So the example that we want to bring you today is in Nigeria, and you will have all the information on the slide, but just to quickly tell you what it's about, there was a non-profit organization in Nigeria, and that after the work that they have done, they have led up to the 2014 Anti-Discrimination Act, to the signing of the act. And how did they do it? So Eva collected critical evidence, and that's where we kind of like refer to the previous slide, collecting evidence, collecting data, understanding better what happened in the context, where they highlighted the cases where young people were being refused educational education because of their HIV status. So they had data. Then they shared their personal stories with decision makers. This made the whole strategy more relatable and impactful. And the third one, then they developed the Section 6 of the HIV and AIDS Anti Discrimination Act, which made at the end a huge impact in making illegal to deny someone admission to an educational institution based on the perceived HIV status. So, what we want to see in this example is that it demonstrates the power of youth voices in driving policy change, just by combining some of the examples that we showed you in the previous slide and being a little bit more strategic. So again, Eddie introduced you before the checklist, and why do we want to include the checklist? Because sometimes we have the content, but there is so much information that it's hard for us to remember. Oh, what was again what other stakeholders or my organization or my work was supposed to do? So this checklist should help you just to go through the different points and said like, okay, check, we have this and this and this and this. So Eddie, you want to go through the conclusions and the Q&A? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe we can save the Q&A for later.
Okay.
There'll be time for people to talk amongst themselves. But I think just in general and as a consensus, what we want to try and achieve with Youth Next Level is to really engage and empower young people in all their diversity to ensure that they're not only strengthening but also sustaining youth-led responses, but it's making sure that we are making those partnerships with stakeholders, with donors, with UN partners, and making sure that they have access to this resource so that they can implement these practical measures and to make sure that young people are really driving the HIV response and being part of those decision-making processes. So all in all, Youth Next Level is a really good resource. We do have it available in other languages, which will be up on the website very soon. And we'll hope to share that with you, or the link to all the participants joining us in the workshop. But we also do have the step-to-step guide and the country implementation, which provides you very clear and distinct steps in how you can get Youth Next Level to the next level, I guess. Yeah, but thank you so much. I'll pass it back to Liggy or Priscilla.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gabby. And thanks, Eddie, for the very insightful presentation on Youth Next Level. It's very inspiring to see how this toolkit, the resource is driving meaningful progress. And I'm very confident that everyone here now has a very deeper understanding of its importance. So before jumping into the panel discussion, Eddie, do you want to take a group photo right now since we're all here? Okay, amazing. So I would like to request everyone to turn on the video so we will have a nice group photo of this workshop if you are available or if you wanted to show yourself.
Yay! I love seeing faces. So many happy faces. Everybody from all corners of the globe. We'll just give it just a minute or two just so people can turn on their cameras,
Brush their hairs,
brush their
put some
hairs.
lipsticks.
Okay, so big smiles, everybody. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll take one more photo. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to you, Priscilla, and Leggy.
Thank you. Thanks, Eddie. So now we transition to our panel discussion on the sustainable youth-led responses. And we are really, really delighted to have an incredible group of panelists today. And our first panelist would be Ika Novianti from Youth Lead Asia Pacific. And then we have Alex from J Plus Lag. And then we have Aranzia from Mascuetres Letras. I just learned this. I'm sorry. So we have this amazing panelists. I would like to start with Ika. Let's begin this. So Ika is an amazing young person who's been working in this field for years and years and having like a decade of experience on youth-led responses. So Ika, I would like to know, how do you see organizations working with stakeholders and using advocacy platforms to champion Youth Next Level, and what kind of strategies have proven effective in your experience?
Thank you so much, Lige. You make me sounds like dinosaurs. Anyway, but thank you. Hi everyone. Good evening from Bangkok. Thank you for the inviting me here and also for the question. So I would like to answer how do I see the organization working with the stakeholder using this Youth Next Level guidance. I think the organization can champion Youth Next Level by fostering collaborative partnership with diverse stakeholders, including youth themselves, to co-create impactful initiative. Empowering young people through the training and mentorship to build their capacity to lead the initiative and also the process by using this guidance, while leveraging advocacy platforms such as social media, community forum, and international event to amplify the voices of young people, and also to showcase this guidance available to the diverse stakeholders. And also, while when we engaging the policymaker and using the evidence-based advocacy to ensure that this effort translate into the tangible outcome, because as the youth-led organization and also young leaders, we tend to need to come up with the issue, and at the same time we need to come up with the solution. So I think using this guidance is really helpful to get the buy-in from the stakeholder, since we will use the evidence-based advocacy. And also the proven strategies that we've seen across the region is the first one, youth driven campaign, giving the young people ownership of advocacy campaigns to ensure the authenticity and also relatability in their context, and also having the strategic partnership to align with the influential allies, for example, like UN and also the government in the country level, perhaps also the media, people working with the media. Other one is, of course, promoting youth leadership, since all of us know that young people are in the forefront of the HIV response. So we need to give to give them space, and also to give them space to speak, and also to speak on their issue. I think that's all, Lige.
Thank you, Ika. I pretty much agree with the strategic partnership, as we are young leaders, and the youth-led organization needs to have a very strategic and important partnership with adult-led organizations. At the same time, governments and the UN agencies and also our media influence must be on the forefront for the youth-led response. I really agree with this. So that made me to ask my second question, which is, why do you think it's more urgent than ever to invest in sustained youth-led responses. And how do you see these efforts making a long-term impact to ourselves and also to youth-led networks?
Yeah, investing in and sustaining the youth-led responses is more urgent than ever right now, because as we know, a lot of HIV fund is decreasing now, and as a youth-led organization, we face so much cut, and that's really impact on the on our partners in the country with the smaller fund. I think investing and sustaining youth-led response is urgent, because as young people, we are at the forefront of the tackling HIV challenge. And we, as young people, we bring the innovative idea, perspective, and also we have deep understanding an issue affecting our peers as the young youth-led organization, right? As Eddie mentioned before, there's no one can reach young people better than young people itself. Second one is promoting youth leadership by empowering youth voices. We are not only addressing immediate needs, but also building a pipeline of the future leaders who are equipped to create lasting change. So this effort have a long-term impact by fostering inclusive development, strengthening community resilience, and creating sustainable solution. When young people are supported, they drive social transformation, inspire the peers, and contribute to a culture of innovation and activism that benefit the society for the generation to come.
Right. Pretty much agree with this. Thank you, Ika. It's always brilliant as usual. So before just jumping to our next panelist, can I quickly check with Spanish-speaking participants if the interpretation is working fine, or do you have any problems with it? If the interpretation is breaking up or breaking down, can you please put on a chat box and let us know?
Sobre la traducción a español, Carmen, está un poco entrecortada. No sé si es tu micrófono o qué, pero escucho entrecortado.
Sí, para que la revises, Carmen, a ver si de repente es el micrófono o qué es, porque sí nos han escrito que está un poco entrecortado. Muchas gracias.
Amazing. Okay. So
Thank you, Ligi. Yeah, they're just checking. Sorry, it was technical issues.
okay, it happens
Yeah.
every time. You know.
Mhm. Thank you for
Sí,
asking.
ya está funcionando mucho mejor. Gracias.
Can you check maybe
Tranquila.
with the French room also if oh okay, the Spanish room is working now. Great. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ika, so I'll come back to you with just one quick request. So I'd like to know if you have any slogan or any empowering testimonials regarding the sustainable youth-led responses by the end of 2030. So I'll come back to you after we'll be chatting with Aaron.
Sure.
So I would like to invite Aaron Zea from Mascue Tres Letras. Are you with us?
Aquí estoy. Hola.
Amazing. So, Aaron, I have three questions for you in this panel, and we're so excited to hear from you, actually. My first question would be, with your work, what has stood up to you about the development process of Youth Next Level, and what motivated the creation of this toolkit, and how does this fill existing gaps of youth-led responses?
Bueno, buen día. Soy Aaron Sea, de Más que Tres Letras. Somos una organización de VIH en Colombia que principalmente nos dedicamos a la creación de contenidos digitales. pueden checarnos en @más3letras en Instagram. Creo que participar de este ejercicio, que fue hace ya un poco más de un año largo, creo que supuso que pudiéramos los jóvenes preguntarnos lo que hemos hecho en todo este tiempo. Eh, Creo que muchas el activismo no nos da tiempo de sentarnos a pensar y a sistematizar lo que estamos haciendo, porque siempre estamos en el día a día, y respondiendo como a la cantidad de cosas que van saliendo en la inmediatez. Pero creo que ejercicios como este nos obliga a sentarnos, a tomar un momento de calma y pensar qué es todo lo que he hecho, ¿no? Porque recuerdo que cuando estábamos en la entrevista, habían preguntas sobre las que yo no había reflexionado, ¿no? Como preguntas que yo no me había hecho sobre lo que yo venía haciendo por muchos años como activista, y que por supuesto ahora en el cargo en que estoy en la organización, sí me supone sentarme a pensar cómo transformar todo ese acumulado en ideas, en propuestas y en actividades, digamos, para fortalecer la respuesta al VIH. Eso creo que es lo primero, lo que supone eso. Y segundo, también supone empezar a reconocer lo que otros han hecho, ¿no? Porque muchas veces hemos trabajado con otros, pero simplemente para la respuesta inmediata, y creo que no nos tomamos el tiempo de sentarnos a pensar, claro, cuáles han sido esos aciertos, cuáles han sido los desaciertos que hemos tenido en el ejercicio, y muchas veces trabajar con los pares nos ayuda muchísimo a eso. Entonces creo que también supuso como sentarnos a pensar con los otros, ¿no? Pero pensar profundamente, ¿no? Más allá como de pensar en resolver lo que está pasando hoy en este instante, no pensar profundamente sobre eso que hemos hecho, a veces que lo hemos hecho solos, qué pasa si lo hacemos con otros, ¿sí? Creo que esas dos cosas rescato como muy importantes de haber participado de este ejercicio. Y creo que era necesario un poco que se recogieran las experiencias de los jóvenes en todo el mundo, y cómo transformar eso en un ejercicio como este documento que hoy se está compartiendo, eh, que espero que ese documento pueda llegarle a a todos los gobiernos de todos los países, pero no solo a los gobiernos, sino también a las empresas de salud o a las entidades encargadas de salud, por supuesto a otras organizaciones y por supuesto a la empresa privada. Más adelante voy a referirme sobre por qué la empresa privada es importante en este ejercicio de fortalecer la respuesta liderada por jóvenes.
Amazing. Thank you, Aaron. I'm really glad to hear that you had a lot of time to reflect everything on the advocacy and go through the exercise and to bring all of those insights. So I'd like to know more about it, like how can organizations engage stakeholders and leverage advocacy events to promote Youth Next Level more? What's your idea and how do you see that can be more beneficial?
Bueno, digamos que en la experiencia de Más que Tres Letras, nosotros somos una organización particular, somos una organización muy joven, nacimos en el 2019, está compuesta en su totalidad por millennials, pues todos somos millennials, entonces, por ejemplo, nosotros no tenemos oficina, todo se trabaja de manera remota, como les conté, hacemos bastante trabajo en lo digital, y eso ha supuesto relacionarnos de otra manera con las partes interesadas, porque nosotros, digamos, para muchos financiadores, no somos una organización con la que pueden colaborar, porque lo que nosotros hacemos, ellos todavía no lo entienden, ¿no? Digamos, para muchos financiadores, el tema de las redes digitales es una cosa que todavía no está en su cabeza, pero al mismo tiempo descubrimos que para muchas otras partes interesadas, por eso mencionaba ahorita lo de la empresa privada, lo que nosotros hacemos en lo digital es supremamente importante en términos de educación, promoción, prevención y de sostener la respuesta al VIH. Entonces, digamos que hemos tenido éxito, por ejemplo, en el trabajo con otras empresas privadas que a veces parece que no tienen nada que ver con VIH. Hay un ejemplo muy claro y es un banco de aquí de Colombia, que es el banco más grande del país. Nosotros empezamos a trabajar con ellos hace un par de años hablando de VIH, ¿no? Y para mucha gente era como, ¿por qué un banco está hablando de VIH? Sí, como que pareciera que no tiene absolutamente nada que ver, luego cuando revisamos al interior del banco, entre sus empleados, por ejemplo, había una preocupación de empezar a hablar de diversidad, de género, de salud sexual, pues como de un montón de cosas que el banco no había identificado, ¿sí? Y ahí fue como logramos conectarnos con muchas empresas privadas proponiéndoles la conversación sobre VIH, pero digamos que el éxito de esa conversación con la empresa privada ha sido el tema de las redes sociales, ¿no? Digamos que para muchas de las empresas privadas aparecer en redes sociales es importante y aparecer de la mano con una organización como nosotros, pues digamos que nos pone como en otro nivel, muchas veces con sus clientes o a veces con sus usuarios, porque no siempre son empresas privadas que prestan servicios particulares, sino que también prestan algún tipo de servicios sociales, ¿no? Entonces creo que implicar a las partes interesadas tiene que ver con aprender a conocerlas, ¿no? Aprender su lenguaje, hablar su lenguaje y trabajar junto con ellos, ¿sí? Nosotros siempre le insistimos a las empresas privadas o digamos a las partes interesadas que quieren trabajar con nosotros la importancia de conversar, de que la gente nos vea juntos, ¿no? No que vean a más que tres letras como un replicador de información pagada por, no, es como, venga, hagámoslo juntos porque la gente también tiene que empezar a reconocer que tienes una necesidad y es importante para ti conversar sobre estos temas, ¿no? Entonces creo que ese ha sido el éxito de cómo hemos implicado a las partes interesadas y por eso ahorita decía, creo que es importante que este documento pueda llegarle a muchísima gente, un poco también como un ejercicio de educación sobre, bueno, si yo quiero hablar de VIH, de lo que están haciendo los jóvenes en el mundo, ¿cómo puedo hacerlo? Creo que este trabajo es un buen ejemplo de eso y tenemos que lograr que llegue a muchísimas personas en todo el mundo. Cambio.
Amazing. I think that's a very good practice, actually, like engaging with the private companies or the private sector to effectively pitch the ideas and then also to promote the youth-led responses in the sector and then get the benefits in promoting also getting additional funding would be very, very nice steps. And also, using this digital platforms would be the best advocacy tool as we all can work at the same time. Look, we're at the same Zoom room and then working in a one workshop together from across the globe. And it's very amazing to know this. So, Aaron, I have my last question for you, which is why is strengthening and sustaining youth-led responses now is more important than ever?
Ok, hablaré un poco más despacio. Sobre por qué es importante mantener una respuesta liderada por jóvenes. Yo creo que más allá de hablar de la respuesta liderada por jóvenes es empezar a tejer redes, porque creo que a veces cuando nos enfocamos solamente en grupos poblacionales, olvidamos también todo lo que está afuera. Creo que tenemos que empezar a mantener una respuesta colectiva, por supuesto que contemple los enfoques diferenciales, ¿no? Que contemple a los jóvenes, a las personas LGBT, a las personas racializadas, ¿sí? Pero creo que tenemos que empezar a construir una respuesta un poco más colectiva. Por ejemplo, hoy los jóvenes tenemos la habilidad de las redes sociales, pero muchas veces nos falta la experiencia y nos falta la historia, ¿no? Entonces, tenemos esa habilidad, no tenemos la historia y la experiencia, pero alguien más tiene la historia y la experiencia. Tenemos que empezar a trabajar juntos para ver cómo esa historia y esa experiencia se transforma en un ejercicio de comunicación digital, por ejemplo. Y eso supone algo de parte y parte. Supone que los jóvenes podamos un poco abrir la mente a poder trabajar con otras personas, digamos con adultos, que creo que a veces en los ejercicios mismos de los jóvenes nos cerramos mucho a trabajar con adultos por este tema del adultocentrismo, es que los adultos siempre han estado en el centro, pero entonces lo que estamos haciendo es como cambiando el asunto y ahora vamos a ser los jóvenes en el centro. ¿Y qué pasa con todo ese acumulado de lucha que han traído otras personas en todo el mundo? Entonces supone que abramos la mente desde allá y que abramos la mente desde acá y eso nos permitirá construir una respuesta integral. Y creo que el futuro de la respuesta no está solamente en los jóvenes, creo que está en toda la sociedad, porque la juventud es el periodo más corto, ¿no? Es cuando entre los 20 y 34 años es tu periodo más corto porque estás haciendo muchísimas cosas. Estás en la universidad, estás en activismo, estás haciendo deporte, ¿sí? Estás metido en muchas cosas y la vida se va muy rápido. ¿Qué pasa cuando me hago viejo? Siempre me he preguntado eso, ¿no? Es como que ¿qué pasa? Yo ya tengo 34 años, o sea, este año salgo de lo que se considera joven en muchos países a los 35, y ahora yo qué hago, ¿sí? Como que siempre estuve metido en esos, nada más con los jóvenes, nunca me relacioné con otros, entonces creo que por eso es importante sostener la responsabilidad y la respuesta liderada por los jóvenes, pero que empecemos a tejer con otros las redes, eh, y creo que los jóvenes no somos el futuro de la respuesta, creo que somos el hoy, ¿no? La vida está yendo muy rápido, y creo que tampoco podemos asumir la responsabilidad de otros grupos sociales que quizás no sabían cómo hacer un par de cosas y hoy nosotros tenemos esa responsabilidad porque creo que también nosotros a veces no tenemos todas las ideas claras y no sabemos exactamente cómo lo vamos a hacer. Entonces, nada, considero que la respuesta liderada por jóvenes tiene que ir acompañada también de otras personas. Cambio.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And I really like the idea of being like dual beneficial. It's not just like youth getting benefited, but both sides, like everyone, also young people will be benefited if the youth responses will go beyond and then sustain it. Um, so thanks, Aaron. Since our time is very much limited, I would like to move to our next speaker. But I really appreciate all of your responses and time, Aaron. So I'd like to invite Alex from J plus LAC. Are you with us?
Sí. Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks, Alex.
Ok.
So I have a couple of questions in this panel for you. From your perspective, Alex, what were some of the key consideration in creating Youth Next Level, and why is it essential to have a tool like this? What do you think about it?
¿Me podría repetir la pregunta? Es que no logré escucharlo bien.
Yes, so I would like to know, why is it so essential to have a tool or the resource like Youth Next Level at this moment? Why do you think it's very beneficial?
Ok, muchas gracias. Desde JMasLat, siendo una red de jóvenes en toda América Latina, activamos desde las bases de los países, ¿no? De un nivel nacional. Y hemos podido visualizar que la sostenibilidad financiera y sobre todo la captación de recursos es una gran limitante para que las organizaciones juveniles que activan dentro de estos países puedan sostener sus incidencias. Es por eso necesario que esta guía de fortalecimiento no solamente involucra a factores primordiales o los pasos para continuar, pero también puede ser una oportunidad para poder ver las oportunidades de financiamiento que sostengan esas incidencias. Justamente estaba dándole una revisión porque la versión está en inglés, tuve algunos problemas. Lamentablemente, el común denominador de los líderes activistas locales en América Latina no hablan inglés, hablan más español. Y eso también se dificulta una barrera para poder acceder a la información. Estaba viendo que las pautas eran significativas, ¿no? Entonces, lo único que queda acá es contrastarlo con la realidad nacional, ¿no? La realidad nacional en América Latina es asimétrica. Hay países que han avanzado mucho mejor que otros, en cuestión de Brasil, Argentina, Chile, incluso Colombia, y otros países que recién están proponiendo nuevas incidencias o recién se están formando grupos. En el caso de Bolivia, Nicaragua, más que todo se concentra en países de Mesoamérica. Diferentemente por ha sido también de autoritarismo de gobierno, faltas de políticas de enfoque de juventudes, X cosa. Y también por el incremento de los desplazamientos migratorios forzados. Entonces, eso dificulta sostener la respuesta de los jóvenes en sus países y en sus localidades. Es por eso primordial que tener esta guía no solamente te orienta, sino que también te dice los pasos a seguir y cómo continuar.
Amazing. I agree with this. We just had an amazing presentation of introduction of this youth next level. And I agree with your idea. And everyone has a language barrier here and there because we don't speak one language, right? And here's the good news that youth next level will be launched in Spanish and French very soon in all the platforms. So, Alex, I want to know if how can organizations like yours effectively engage stakeholders and leverage advocacy events to amplify the impact of Youth Next Level? What's your opinion on this?
Dentro de la composición de las mismas redes, es prácticamente ya una cosa orgánica hacer encuentros, hacer espacios participativos, ya sean foros, diálogos pequeños, diálogos micro, diálogos macro, ¿no? En sus diferentes niveles. Y es ahí donde los jóvenes se informan prácticamente. Si uno sale del país, el otro llega, ah, mira, ha pasado esto, hay esta normativa o hay este documento, entonces se van comunicando. Y creo que la oportunidad mayor son los encuentros nacionales y los diálogos locales que las mismas redes van tejiendo en su camino. Voy a hablar de un caso muy específico que aquí en Perú. Estamos con la iniciativa Jóvenes en Movimiento, que busca ir a las comunidades mismas del centro del Perú, porque todo se centraliza siempre en capitales, y poder ir desplazando la información, ¿no? Cómo vamos interactuando en la agenda a nivel regional y la agenda a nivel nacional, para poder ver los componentes que se puedan articular y eclipsar entre sí. Entonces, esa creo que es una gran oportunidad para poder no difundir solamente estas guías, sino también difundir otros instrumentos de incidencia que fortalezcan primero el acceso a la información. Una vez que los jóvenes tienen la información, se van empoderando poquito a poquito y luego van a ir articulando sus procesos. Mira, sus necesidades las van articulando a lo que ellos van conociendo. Por ejemplo, alguien conoce sobre hacer talleres, entonces va formando talleres. Alguien conoce sobre hacer contenidos en redes sociales, va construyendo contenido en redes sociales. Así van articulando. Y creo que esa sería la oportunidad de poder involucrar a más organizaciones y a más partes interesadas a que conozcan esta guía y a que puedan promoverla y también la puedan sostener dentro de sus incidencias locales, nacionales e regionales.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this. You know, information sharing strategy is very important. And then it depends on which community we work. It's supposed to be, very friendly and then easy to use. And then how to transport this information is very important. I really agree with you. And thanks, Alex, for your time. Unfortunately, I really have to finish this panel. Otherwise, I could just talk with three amazing panelists on and on. But we have a very limited time, so I guess we have to wrap up the panel now. But I would like to express my gratitude towards Ika Novianti and Alex and Aranzia. We really appreciate your time and all of the inputs that you provided in this panel. So now I'd like to hand over to Priscilla to guide us through our breakup session rooms. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Leggy. So I think we will now be moved into our various groups. So there are three main rooms or three main breakout rooms. That is the English breakout room, the Spanish, and the French breakout room. So I believe our tech support Tawanda is going to pull them up now, and we can select what room we would like to go to. So Tawanda, are the breakout
Thank you
rooms
so
ready?
Thank you, Priscilla. The breakout rooms are open right now, and you are free to choose a room of your choice. You should receive prompts on your screen and select the room labeled with the language you prefer. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, thank you. So just to know who the leads of each room are, in English we have Leggy and Eddie. In French, that's me and Yuba, and in Spanish, there's Gabriela and Alicia. So please choose your rooms accordingly. We will be answering the same questions but in different languages. Thank you all very much. Please do select your rooms. To join the room, please just tap on more and then find breakout rooms and then join your appropriate language room. There's English, French, and Spanish. You can just join on your own. If you are having challenges, please type in the chat box and I can assist you with assigning you to the appropriate room.
Wow, everyone, 40 minutes were not enough for us, definitely, but we all have a limited time and then we had to come back to our big room. So I'd like to ask Priscilla to take over the reporting back.
Thank you very much, Leggy. Welcome back, everyone. I hope we had really fruitful discussions. And so I think I'll give it to the English room. They had the largest, the largest number of participants overall. So we would like to hear from the English room a summary of the points that were discussed. So I'll hand it over to Eddie.
Actually, Esther had kindly decided to report back. So thank you, Esther.
You could see Eddie's shock when I volunteered. So hi everyone, my name is Esther Kamau. I work with Y Plus Global together with Eddie, Priscilla, and Gabby and Tawanda. I've seen you in the room. And I work in finance and I'll be presenting some of the points that we discussed in our English team. So the first question was, how can young people promote the youth next level with other stakeholders? We had Tapelo who brought out the point of making use of digital advocacy tools such as social media like TikTok and X. We know most young people, if you're not on TikTok, either you're on Instagram or you're on X. So we take space and advocate and teach other young people of the amazing toolkit that has been developed. Another point was we are the target as young people, so we should take charge and lead. And also another point was funding for young people. Yeah, I was scribbling notes, so I'll try and read what I tried to note down. Yeah, another point was make noise and give the youth an opportunity to lead. Ika also raised their hand and gave their opinion, and Ika said leveraging on partners at country level and partnering with them to showcase the toolkit. Eddie also brought in their thoughts, and Eddie said that not every young person is given an equal opportunity to engage with the stakeholders. So what can we do so as a young person, if you're given an opportunity to come into these rooms, talk about the toolkit and hold meetings at country level and be in the same room as some of the stakeholders to promote the youth next level. Some of the challenges were some of these parliamentarians, you might invite them into some of these rooms and you might talk about these issues, but do they really come again and address the issues that we've talked about and actually do something about them? And something, yeah, changes that comes through implementing innovations. Yes, okay, Faith, let young people speak on young people's issue. Yes, okay, Faith came and said, young people attending the call or the webinar can take time and read on the document, understand and share their thoughts on social media. You could even make a TikTok video and share your takeaways.
Sorry that I'm interrupting you. I'm really sorry. It's just that the Spanish room translation room is breaking, so we can't understand the translation. Carmen, if you could check your microphone or your connection again, that would be amazing. Thank you. I'm sorry, Esther. Please continue. That people were not able to hear you.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, so Faith, another thing that we can
Se escucha mal en español. Yo lo escucho súper entrecortado.
Sí, ya le estamos preguntando a Carmen para que lo revise. Gracias. Sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, so as young people attending the call, you could take time and read on the document, understand, and then share your takeaways with your networks. You could make a TikTok video on your takeaways and share with your networks. As the team that came up with the toolkit could come up with a hashtag that they could share with the young people, so that as they share their takeaways, as they make their videos, they can use the takeaways to share with their networks. If you ever have a chance to attend some of these meetings, you could bring the tools. You could bring the tools that have been developed and talk about them, and also share with the network that you meet in these rooms. Okay. The next question was, what advocacy events can we leverage on to implement the Youth Next Level at country level? Some of the points that we made in our team was engage the youth hub. So if you are engaged in like a youth group in your respective countries, you could bring them toolkit and talk about it. And some of these international days to celebrate like World AIDS Day, International Youth Day, at country level, they sort of also come up with conference events that commemorate these days. If it's free of charge, you could take a chance and go and also talk about it, share the tool with some of the stakeholders that are in these rooms. Yes. Okay. We'll find a way to amplify the toolkit. That was the point. And then, oh yeah, another one said, since in schools is where we find most of these young people, either at university level, you could collaborate with them to share the toolkit, billboards to reach out to the larger numbers of young people, or host a webinar like this one to talk about the amazing toolkits and encourage your friends to join. And then the next question was, what support do youth-led organizations need to implement Youth Next Level, and how can we foster ownership of the resources? At the top of it all was capacity building, specific financial support to implement this, and also fight the stigma and discrimination. So as you come to also talk about the toolkit, especially in the LGBTIQ community, face the stigma in Uganda. So to also fight the stigma and discrimination, to also offer a conducive environment for us to talk about these amazing tools that have been developed, and also create a platform for dialogues is also really, really important. And on top of it all is financial support and direct funding to youth-led organizations. My presentation was all over the place, but that's what we discussed in our team.
Thank you very much, Esther, for that comprehensive summary. We really appreciate it. I think it makes us understand that there's a lot of work to be done in sharing this toolkit and getting people to really use it to work at country level. Thank you so much. So I'm going to hand it over to the French team. We have Lele Brenda. Lele, would you like to please do a summary of what we discussed in the room? Lele, are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, my English is not on point. Can I talk in French?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Ok, thank you. Donc, dans notre groupe à nous, nous avons malheureusement répondu qu'à 2 questions. La première question qui était celle de savoir comment promouvoir cette initiative auprès des parties prenantes. Alors, nous avons répondu à cette première question en 4 grands points, parmi lesquels la sensibilisation et l'éducation, qui visent à organiser des ateliers, des séminaires et des campagnes de sensibilisation dans des écoles, des universités, des communautés pour informer les jeunes sur notre initiative et son importance dans la lutte contre le VIH. Ensuite, comme deuxième élément de réponse pour cette question, nous avons parlé de l'utilisation des médias sociaux. Donc, il fallait créer des campagnes sur les réseaux sociaux pour partager des témoignages, des informations et des ressources sur l'initiative. Enfin, encourager des jeunes à utiliser des hashtags spécifiques pour générer des buzz autour de la cause. Comme troisième élément de réponse pour la première question, on a parlé de la collaboration avec les influenceurs. Vous savez que au jour d'aujourd'hui, on ne peut plus se passer des influenceurs, excusez-moi du terme influenceurs, étant donné qu'ils ont une énorme notoriété sur les réseaux sociaux. Donc, nous pouvons donc les impliquer et ainsi les engager dans la lutte contre le VIH afin de promouvoir notre initiative et d'atteindre un public beaucoup plus large. Nous avons enfin donné comme quatrième élément de réponse l'engagement avec les décideurs. Il faut donc inviter les responsables politiques et les leaders communautaires à des événements où les jeunes peuvent partager leur expérience et leurs idées sur notre initiative afin d'influencer les politiques publiques. Ça, c'était pour la première question. Est-ce que je me suis fait comprendre? Désolée de m'exprimer en français.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Brenda. Um, for time's sake, we would like to go quickly to the Spanish room. Um, can we please have a representative share with us the summary?
I'm happy to share, Priscilla.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna repeat what it has been already mentioned, but because we have very similar ideas, but maybe some of the ideas that haven't been mentioned yet. We had a very productive conversation, and I hope that in the future, to improve the guidance and to see how we're gonna implement it, we get more of these spaces. I take the opportunity also to thank all the young people for sharing their ideas. It's so valuable for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So one of the main ideas of our group was to not work in isolation. We realized that there's already so much work that we're doing and duplicating. So when it comes to the strategy on how implementing the guidance, we thought of perhaps having like regional strategies and working, in our case, Más que Tres Letras, J Maslac, Mario, all the initiatives together to set a stigma to bring the guidance out there. So instead of doing isolated works, working together as a region, like in regional efforts. And there was also a suggestion to make the guidance a little bit shorter and more graphic. Of course, what you have already named and saying, working maybe in a more dynamic or graphic way and bringing the guidance to social media, short reels, short information that brings the guidance out there. Also identify within all of us what are all these the events that are going to be happening this year, the in-person meetings, the spaces where we can bring out the guidance. And I think that came with a third idea, which was pretty much kind of like training or having some of you of the young people presenting this guidance, some kind of like ambassador idea. um, there was also to use the outreach in different contexts and spaces, and to take advantage of this specific time and be strategic. There was a conversation of having the youth next level guidance, and we are having a next level time. So I'm trying to be also strategic into the way that we're introducing the guidance. I think those are the main points that were not named before. um, if anyone from my group has anything to add, please go ahead. And if not, then I guess that's all from our side, Priscilla.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriela. That was really insightful. We appreciate that a lot. So I think we have one more speaker we would like to hear from before we come to an end of this call, and that person is Alicia Sanchez. Yes. Alicia Sanchez is based in Panama, and she serves as the Youth Engagement Advisor at UNAIDS headquarters. She has been a dedicated advocate for youth, working alongside national, regional, and global networks of young people living with and affected by HIV. She has played a key role in managing UNAIDS youth programs, including the Youth Next Level initiative and strengthening youth led responses to HIV. Alicia, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Priscilla, and thank you, everybody. It has been really an amazing discussion. I want us all, just to give a big applause to the organizers of this event, Eddie, Gabby, but also Priscilla, Legui for facilitating, Tawanda for supporting, and all the speakers that brought really, really great insights about their work and how they see we can apply youth next level and make youth next level a reality. It has been a really wonderful time for me. I just want to say that just to reaffirm UNAIDS commitment to supporting Youth Next Level as a tool to strengthen and sustaining youth-led responses. So UNAIDS is very supportive of, Y Plus global leadership and driving the agenda, but also all the organizations like regional organizations and country level organizations that are joining this collective effort to really put young people at the center. So looking ahead to this year, we're dedicated to really identifying potential opportunities for youth networks to use Youth Next Level as a resource to open up this dialogue spaces with key stakeholders, including also non-traditional actors, to support the responses that are led by young people and to discuss how really young people can play a more meaningful role in the HIV response. That also includes a human rights based approach and a gender transformative approach and all the gaps that we see out there that need to be addressed. So we are really committed to supporting youth networks in this process. We encourage you to get familiar with Youth Next Level and the definition of youth responses and also the proposed steps to bring Youth Next Level to life at the country level, at the regional level. So feel free to stay in touch and present your ideas and how this framework could be rolled out in your countries and what kind of support you need for that. I invite you to stay tuned regarding Youth Next Level next steps. So we are in the process of conceptualizing the next phase for Youth Next Level. So all the insights that we have heard today are really very helpful for us to think about what's coming next. I also want to bring attention to the fact that this year we are starting the process of developing the new Global AIDS strategy, which is a very strategic space for young people. And we want to make sure that Youth Next Level is also an opportunity for increasing youth engagement in this process. So we'll be also discussing ways in which young people or youth voices can be really heard and their their priorities are put at the center of the development process. So stay tuned because we will be in touch with you about these exciting opportunities ahead. So thank you very much. It has been really great again, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Alicia. So I would just like to say, as we are rounding up or we are wrapping up, we would be sharing a survey with you to get feedback from you on your experience with us through this workshop. And we would also be attaching the materials that we presented here as well. So with that, I would hand over to Leggy to wrap up for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Priscilla. Thanks, Alicia. So, first of all, thank you to our panelists, our participants, and everyone who contributed to today's discussion. And thanks to UNAIDS and thanks to Y Plus Global for hosting such an amazing workshop. It has been an inspiring session, and your insights and engagement highlight the incredible potential of youth leadership in the HIV response. So, as we discussed, that Youth Next Level toolkit is a crucial resource to strengthen and sustain youth-led responses, empowering young leaders to drive meaningful change in their communities and beyond. With only 5 years left to achieve the goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030, the role of youth has never been more vital. And it's also exciting to share that Youth Next Level will be soon available in French and Spanish, broadening its accessibility and ensuring more young people around the world can benefit from the invaluable resource. And I encourage all of you, our youth leaders, to use this tool to guide your work, inspire action, and advocate for its adoption in your countries. And let's leverage its potential to address barriers, amplify youth voices, and create inclusive responses that bring us closer to the world without AIDS. Together, we have the power to make a difference. And thank you for your commitment, for your passion and determination to strengthen youth-led responses. Let's continue this momentum and make the vision of ending AIDS by 2030 a reality. And thank you so much. Take care until next time. We're ending here. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Lizzie.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.